Welcome to Real Flix Reviews, or like a book club for people late reading. This week we're doing the Henry Fonda classic, The Oxbow Incident, and we bring you movie news at the end of the program. This week we have Jonathan Charney, James Stevens, Ryan Preston, and the old guy.
Yeah, old guy's here.
So who has the synopsis of this movie?
Well, since I picked this was my choice.
Dum, dum, dum.
I go ahead and read it.
No.
He went dum, 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 dum. Two drifters are passing through a western town when news comes that a local farmer has been murdered and his cattle stolen. The townspeople, joined by the drifters, form a posse to catch the perpetrators. Perpetrators, huh? How do you like that? I can pronounce. Perpetrators.
My first thought on this
They find 3 men in possession of the cattle and are determined to see justice done on the spot.
My first thought of this movie is, holy, jump to conclusions, Batman.
Yeah.
You know, I'm listening to that, and it didn't really sound like that whole bar scene when they come in there like they have not been there before. It sounded to me like they had been to the town in the discussion between the bartender. And even the guy he punched in the face, he knew.
Yeah. Because that
was such a blindsided punch and then a face stomp after that. I'm like, dude's not getting up for a while.
What's the bet that this is probably written 10 years ago and they didn't watch the movie?
Right? See,
I mean,
probably.
You know, it's IMDb, man.
Well, because the reason why, you know, I thought that after I saw it is because it talks about his girl that left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That later on you meet the girl and her husband.
Well.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's like one of those towns that they kind of, you know, drift through every now and again, but, you know. Bet they were happy they showed up that day.
Yeah, boy, that was a bad day to show up.
Yeah. And holy crap, Harry Morgan was young in this movie.
Wasn't he?
I know, right? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Little fodder.
Jeez.
Yeah, I was actually very happy to see him do it because I didn't know that he was in it. I hadn't seen this movie. You know, I am a fan of Henry Fonda. I'm not a fan of Jane. She can go die.
Well,
Henry Fonda, I
don't like Henry Fonda's politics either, but he was a good actor.
Yeah, great actor.
And don't forget, this movie was released in 1943, so none of us, including the old guy, was around when this movie
And this is the second movie of his we've done, and it just... You know, I love him as an actor.
And by the way, anybody want to write me hate mail on that Jane Fonda comment, go talk to a Vietnam vet.
Yeah, write me. I'll take it.
Right, Rob.
Right? Wow.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Shut up.
I'm looking for another good rant.
Harsh.
Anyways, but, you know, let's get back to Henry Fonda. He did a great job in this film, actually. I was very impressed for such a thin plot for a movie for the time, because they weren't releasing very many films at this time. So this one to get made, I mean, the moral and the point of the movie was really well done, and the delivery of the monologue at the end for the letter was really well timed and placed, and you know, I thought that was really well done, and Henry Morgan really did a great job for a side character.
The reason I wanted to bring this movie up, one, is that it was actually a movie that I first saw in school. It was a high school movie brought in when government was actually taught.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
This is a high school movie.
Yeah, it was a high school movie used for government, and you think about it, what it's showing you is let's not rush to judgment. And I think at that particular time when I saw the movie, the death penalty was a big discussion under the Rosebud Court here in California. And so, you know, for a while there, the death penalty was not allowed in California. Then it was brought back again by a proposition. But anyway, that's what this movie was brought forward for. It was to say, hey, take a look what happens when you rush to judgment.
Yeah.
I wish they explained some of the characters, because some of the main characters had really no backstory. Like the Confederate soldier really had a whole lot of backstory. His girlfriend,
his son hinted to
beat his son up.
Well, it seemed like they were kind of
make a man out of him. I won't have a woman. My name.
What was that, Ryan?
Sorry.
I was saying it seems like they were kind of playing on the archetypes of the characters and letting the story kind of ride. Like James said, it's not that complicated of a story. If I was writing the IMDb synopsis, I would have just put a lynch mob movie.
Yeah, or just say when a posse forms up to go out and catch a killer.
Right.
If I was trying to explain it to one of you guys, I'd be like, "Oh, this is like 12 Angry Men, but a Western and done by Alfred Hitchcock."
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Okay.
I mean, I would still think, I just wish, because he was one of the main characters in the movie, I just wish they explained more about him. And same thing with Henry Fonda's character and one of the wrestlers, the Spanish guy.
Oh,
He was the Mexican guy.
yeah, I
Who
just
spoke like
had his
12
name and I just pulled 10.
10 languages.
And I won't tell you anything in any of them. I don't want to. That's what he said. That's a good line.
You know.
I like some of these lines too. This Jeff Farnley, he's pulling out a gun. Chuck that butt, or I'm going to plug you. And the other guy says back, for every hole you make, I'll make 2.
Think of the Juan Martinez.
Oh, that's
my
right.
God.
Yeah.
Some of the dialogue was pretty cheesy.
Yeah, some of the dialogue was pretty cheesy, and there was some quotes in here that I was trying to find on the quotes thing.
I mean, really, what do you expect from 1943?
True.
Well,
that
while
some.
James is looking for quotes, I wanted to bring up something I thought was interesting. The preacher was black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
This is 1943.
Yeah. Well.
You know, I mean, that's pretty, sort of forward thing. I mean, especially him being the character that he was. You know, like this sort of voice of reason. One of the good people. And I don't know. It was kind of interesting to see that.
But he did. I mean, maybe I kind of read it wrong, but he seemed like a guy who maybe a former slave.
Oh yeah, he would have been a former slave at that point.
But something, but still respected in the town, and as like people took his opinion.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of, it almost,
it's a type of character you didn't see for black people in 1943.
Yeah. But his character was also kind of a joke because they thought, oh, they're going to need praying for. Bring him.
I mean, he was one of the true voice of reason, especially when he gave that little speech in the beginning. It's like, he was telling the guy he was accidentally right.
Right.
I think he
Problem
was.
is, I don't find him on the cast.
I actually think he was the only voice of reason. I mean, there was.
There were 7.
There was a judge who spoke up, and there was the black guy.
All cast and crew.
But Henry Fonda's character was kind of wishy-washy.
Carter.
I think all the other characters, because the black guy was the only one who really said, why don't we really wait, tried to do his best to persuade it, because the judge just rolled over.
Right.
Yeah, well, as sort of pointed out, the judge, was just kind of, he was just, trying to get quick justice.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things that they actually, one of the joke quotes in there is, down in Texas, we just get a rope and we hang the man.
No kidding. Guilty
it's like
or
hang
not.
them high.
Guilty or not, you better not be anywhere near.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing, but I really didn't know what to expect watching this movie, and I was shocked as shit when they actually got hung. Mm-hmm. Or hanged,
and then shot.
And
did you guys notice?
I was going to point that out too.
Yeah, hung and
it was
shot.
Kind of dark and darker than I expect. Something from that area, especially with like the orchestral score. Kind of behind it, and you figure it's going to kind of lead up right to that moment, and something miraculous is going to save them. It's like no,
they're dead.
Nothing at all.
They do it.
They're dead. And then even to make sure they're dead, we're shooting them too.
And I think this shows. I think this shows a reason why we go back in time and we look at some of these old movies, because they still have a message.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And
especially some of the Hitchcocks, because Hitchcock loved irony.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot of what the Alfred Hitchcock Presents was all about, is he would take a normal situation, and turn it into an ironic situation that had a moral and a something to tell you about. Yeah, a lot of the Alfred Hitchcock Presents were like that. Dial M for Murder was like that.
Right.
Where it's the unexpected twist, but it's an everyday situation that he puts you in.
I think the ability, I'm going to say this real quick because this is a compliment to you guys. I think the ability of the show, as far as Real Flix goes, is the fact that we're not like every other movie review out there that is only going to review new movies. The advantage of Real Flix in this show here is that we all come from a different area, and we can pick a movie that we think might be interesting, might be something that I would never watch. I know there's been a couple I would have never watched
Buffalo
otherwise.
66.
But but at least we could. But at least we can bring it forward to an audience. Maybe that little audience out there, will look at this and say, "Oh, that'll be an interesting movie to watch."
Yeah, we're more of like a showcase review show. It's like, hey, look at this movie that, like you said, like you might have never watched. Who's out there digging through the 1940s file?
I guarantee he would have never seen Indecendis.
I guarantee
it. If we really put it into perspective, there's billions of movies out there.
Oh yeah,
literally somewhere in the billions of movies that have been made since filmography began. Back in the first one they filmed was the Spanish-American War, the troops coming back. It was the first time they actually had film that caught something, and then it sparked from there. And then there was maybe like 10 films made for a long time, a year. And now
and then Charlie Chaplin did 10 a year.
Yeah, then movies just started coming out, and one right after another. We're probably up into the billions.
Yeah, I do have a question regarding Henry Fonda's character. Is when do you think he knew the guy was innocent? Because it seemed like he was very hem and hawing and very kind of because the
I think during the interview when the colonel or whatever his rank was, I didn't really get a good look at it, was sitting there drilling the guy over and over in the questions, and then the character came back and he goes, "Why do I keep on answering your questions? You don't believe me anyways."
Yeah, they were very leading questions.
Yeah.
You could tell Fonda's character seemed to be kind of like, if I start speaking against against the lynch mob,
I might be next.
I mean, you're talking about people that have a real clear agenda. They want to see somebody hanged.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you were to start speaking up, he was kind of trying to pick his moments and really suss out the situation before he made any move at all. Yeah,
because it seemed even when the seven stepped aside, you could see that even then he was like, and Harry Morgan's character only followed him. Harry Morgan's character didn't speak
Harry
up.
Morgan's character cared very much. He was just there because Henry Fonda's character was there.
I think he also didn't want to be, if the guys were guilty, I think he was just kind of like, I just followed him.
Yeah, and I think that was a very poignant part, is when they stumble across the sheriff and he says, "Well, who hung him? Who's guilty of this crime?" He said, "All but 7 was the answer." And that was a pretty somber statement.
Yeah.
In that movie, really. And the way that they said it and delivered it was very well done, because it really kind of hit home of just really what the mob mentality gets to.
Right.
Exactly.
And it was even worse because
the escalation, you know what I mean, and everybody kind of feeding off everybody's sort of.
Yeah, and that female character did a great job of kind of showing how there's always that group that just doesn't really care. They're just there for the fun.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of lynch mobs were at the time. There wasn't that many lynch mobs, truthfully, in the Wild West. But, and some of those, there was those people that were just there to watch somebody get killed.
Right, and I think that might be why there's not so much character development, you know what I mean, or backstory. These people are supposed to represent, types of people.
Yes.
I think that's why this movie's so evergreen. I mean, this movie, as far as I'm concerned, holds up from the day it's made.
Yeah,
I thought it was really well done, especially for a movie just done on sets.
Yeah, I mean,
dude, really terrible sets too.
They were,
yeah, they were.
But the sets were almost as bad as the TV Dune movie. I was going to say, to quote a Christopher Nolan movie, some people just like watching things burn. So definitely.
I think this movie was made for the message, not so much for its props and
like I said in the beginning. I mean, there was nothing. My all-time favorite scene was the first scene, where Henry Fonda and Henry Morgan come walking into the bar. And they just have the banter and the talk and kind of the lines in between him and the bartender were classic, great lines. You should watch it just for the deliveries of those, because there was some witty banter back and forth. Just leave the bottle, give me the drink,
and then the random assaulting.
Yeah, just the random assault in the face. That face stomp he did, that would have really left. that guy,
that
face crushed, probably broken jaw, broken teeth, he would not be up and just kind of smiling a few minutes later.
I think they were tougher in the Wild West.
Would have some pretty deep lacerations from that bottle.
I just remember the first thing. I see that and I'm just like, oh, dude!
I love the Foley effect on that too, because you can really hear it.
Yeah, and then the bottle on the back of the head. Yeah, and then he's just like, "What did he hit me with?" A bottle. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
They made bottles pretty thin back then, didn't they?
Yeah, really thin.
I love Harry Morgan's comment. Yeah, well, he just needed a fight.
But that actually was a trick of the bartenders back in the day. They get thicker glass so that when they give them a bottle, they didn't get very much whiskey. Anyway, just pointing that out.
No, that's true. Except for the glass bottles that are made to break, which were actually made out of sugar.
Yeah.
Sugar, yeah.
But not the bottle.
The real bottles send you to the hospital.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You get a busted skull.
So I was wondering if we should probably name out the archetypes and the characters, because it is obvious, but because there was. There's definitely the CSA soldier, the guy who has a vendetta, who's like uber Mr. Justice.
The antagonist.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the antagonist, and then you'd have the...
well, you got the sheriff, of course, the typical...
Not the sheriff. There was another guy who was the protagonist, who wasn't the preacher, he was the other guy.
Because you had the judge...
It wasn't the judge. It was the guys who went on the mob, is what I was kind of saying. Because he also, and then the cowardly way to get out, just also to put that in there that we just talked about the colonel. The cowardly thing he did, he just walks right in his house.
Yeah.
Locks the door, goes into his room, and shoots himself.
Oh, you just gave the movie away.
Anybody else notice the door open right after that?
Right.
The concussion from the 44.
By the way, when he opens the door to go into that room to go get the gun, you can plainly see that there's nothing on the other side of that door.
Yeah.
Just to point that out.
There was early Hollywood. Nobody would notice that.
Because there was right after the gunshot, the door opens again.
Yeah. Well, he had to leave.
He let the magic smoke out.
There was nothing there except for him and the fire extinguisher.
Because there was also the judge who was kind of almost didn't seem to care about justice.
He didn't care, and they actually say that in there, something about like I'm going to hold you in contempt of court, and he said something along the lines of, "Why would you hold me in something you don't move anyways?"
Well, I mean, yeah, he seemed to be just kind of like the spin his wheels kind of judge, all bark and no bite,
Yeah, and I did like the way that the deputy deputized everybody illegally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you knew it was kind of all bad from there.
Y'all hold your hands up and say I do.
That was actually my favorite scene of the entire movie is after the everyone but Seven scene, when you see everybody somber walking in,
and all sitting at the bar, just kind of head down.
That
give me a drink.
pan scene, it shows everybody who did it. Then comes to Henry Fonda, and then and the leaves.
And then he breathes the leather.
Yeah, I love that scene.
Well, yeah, but it leaves you to wonder. Okay, now what are these guys going to do?
Well,
I mean, one of them killed themselves already over the situation.
They're all going to hang.
They just.
I was going to say, I would love to see like a 30-person hanging at the end of that movie. That would have been weird.
They would have done it in Texas.
Well, they actually, there was a judge they used to call the hanging judge, because how many people he used to hang.
Well, there never.
Yeah, but that was up here.
There were never judges called the hanging judge.
Well, so what were you going to say?
He said there never was a judge.
No, I meant,
I was just going to say, but all in all, I think this movie's great.
What do you give it?
I got to give it a 3. I can't give it really a 4, just because there's not a lot of...
they don't explain themselves a lot.
Yeah, I would say that, but, for this type of movie, they didn't really need a lengthy film to do it.
True.
I mean, this movie's
just...
Hour
and 15 minutes. It wasn't lengthy at all.
No, not for our standards of films these days.
No.
Hour and a half is basically an average movie.
That's your previews.
Yeah.
Seems like, anyway.
But I really can't jump over a 3 just based on the fact that there's not that much character development, and you don't really need a lot of character development. But it was more than what I was expecting, to be honest.
Good.
So, Rob,
I agree with James. I'm going to give it a 3. I'd give it a 4 on message, but a 3 on production.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going to, but I was choking on my words.
Sorry, no half points.
I'll take a 3 for this movie, and I hope that other, particularly young people, take some time to watch this movie to understand the message of it, and that's the whole reason I brought it up.
So Ryan, you're up.
I agree and slightly disagree. I give this movie a 4 despite its production.
Good for you.
This movie was great. In lieu of a huge budget. You know what I mean? I think I read somewhere that they didn't even want it to be, like sort of on location, so they had to save money and do it on sets.
Right.
I mean, with what they were given, like I said, I think this movie holds up today. With the same kind of point. That it's and I think it unfortunately would be sort of lost on the government classes of today. Might just sort of brush it off and not really pay attention to what it's actually
saying. And especially since a lot of high schools are not even teaching government anymore or social studies,
and wouldn't show something this kind of poignant, but being poignant also kind of telling a really cool story at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I give it a 3 out of 5. It's an amazing message, and even for being in the 40s, the sets and everything was cheesy by today's standards, but actually not bad. It's probably
it wasn't bad.
I'm probably unfairly judging it, but the one thing I really wish they did is a little bit more background on some of the main antagonists in the story. I would have loved to know more about this the general, or colonel. Why was he such an ass?
Major.
He was a major asshole. Why? Why
he was what he was.
Yeah, there were a few characters I think that could.
He was stereotyped. Yeah, it was a stereotype. His son was a pansy, and he was going to whip his son into becoming a man, and he was showing off. And
I'm not going to have any lady boys bearing my name.
I would have, I would have loved to know a little bit more, but overall, it's a 3 out of 5. To me, it's very close to a 4 to 5. It's probably a little unfair, but definitely a 3 to 5.
I agree with Ryan. I think this movie still holds up, and I think it's still worth
I think it does too.
I know. I agree. I think this movie and the last movie we did, Young Mr. Lincoln, I think the movies, black and white, they hold up. Ladies and gentlemen,
I don't think all of them do, but
a lot of them do.
Many do.
You know what? If they were a well-made movie in the 40s and 50s, there's probably still a good movie today.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of crap that was produced then as well. So you got, okay, there was. And
Uwe Boll, we're talking to you.
Yeah.
Crappy movie.
Wow. What? Sorry. I just looking at some stuff.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to let you know that we do have a Facebook page. Do us a favor. Drop us a line. Tell us your think. Is there a theme or a movie you'd like us to do? Or tell us one of us suck. We might possibly maybe... read you on air. Let us know.
Just let us know if there's anybody out there. Is there life out there?
No, they all died. I made sure.
And so the next section is movie news. And does anybody have any?
I got a little bit. I was just kind of looking around, and I, excuse me, and the cast for Star Wars Episode 7 has been released.
Oh yeah,
and it's kind of interesting to look and see who they picked to keep in the cast as far as the original cast is. You got the guy who played Chewbacca still going at it.
Did you see his picture?
Mayhew, yeah.
Oh my God!
He looks like he's related to Weird Al Yankovic.
He does.
I saw that picture of that guy and I kind of went, "He's still alive?"
The one that blew me away, and I was just kind of, when I was flipping through, I didn't expect to see Kenny Baker still alive.
Oh, yeah.
R2-D2.
R2-D2.
Is he really?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, he's still alive. He's 79, and he's going to be in the new movie.
He is.
I couldn't believe that one. I knew Anthony Daniels, who plays C-3PO, is still alive. He's still a fairly young guy compared to Kenny Baker. He's, what did I just look at, 68? Yeah, 68. So he's not doing too bad, but Kenny Baker... For those of you who don't know, he actually fits into the R2-D2 container.
He's the one shaking it.
Yeah, he's the one shaking it. He's the one kind of moving it and getting it along. Yeah, he's still going at it. It surprised me.
Good for him.
Let me ask you this, James. When the Jawas shot or in the Sand People shot R2-D2 when he fell over, do you think they put him inside the can and then pushed it over?
Yeah. I think they gave him a little button that he pushes that kind of like pushes the lever to pull him back.
Out further, yeah.
It's a little spring on the butt.
Like, why do I have to be in there when you're just going to push it over?
Right? But, you know, they released the cast, and the thing that really disappoints me is that they released the cast, but they don't tell you who the characters they're actually playing, except for the ones we already know. Like, Mark Hamill's going to be Luke Skywalker,
right.
Carrie Fisher is going to be Leia.
Yeah, obviously all the old ones are going to be...
But the reason why that was cool is I was reading
how
something...
much do you really want to know?
I want to know who the heck these people are going to be.
Well, the coolest thing...
Wait till the movie comes out.
The coolest thing that I read was the fact that, according to the story, that Luke, Han, and Leia would be about the age that the original cast members are.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing, because Princess Leia weighs about 150 pounds more now than she did.
Sexist.
Sorry.
Not going to be putting her in that little metal bikini.
I don't want to see her in that outfit this time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we also wanted to give our sincere, somber condolences to the family of British actor Bob Hoskins, who died last week or the week before that. Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He was in the unfortunate Mario Brothers movie with John Leguizamo.
He did the worst thing he ever did. Hated that movie to death.
He did, but you know, I just want to say, is an amazing actor, probably one of my all-time favorite movies. Shmee.
Yeah,
just gotta say Shmee.
Just for Shmee alone, I mean, that's
there will never be another Shmee.
No, I agree.
This guy's career goes back so bloody far. You know what I mean? Early 70s, this guy was just rocking it. Didn't even want to be an actor. His buddy talked him into going with him to an audition, and he's sitting there like having a drink, and some guy comes out and hands him a script. He's like, "You're next."
Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
All right.
So just a sincere, we lost another good actor.
Yeah.
And I actually have another piece of news. If you guys are curious, is they're dumping the Star Wars Expanded Universe.
Really?
For what?
What it is, it's called the Expanded Universe. What this is, it's a literary universe after 6.
Yeah.
So
which I'm aware that there is one. What are they doing to it?
They're getting rid of it. Yeah. They're dumping it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, like, you know, like in the Expanded Universe, Chewbacca's dead and a bunch of other stuff. Apparently, they're just kind of refreshing the canon completely. And my question
well, are they taking it off of fan canon, or are they doing it off of what's his name's canon?
I'm assuming what they're doing. I'm assuming what it is the Expanded Universe was approved. I'm pretty sure. So it was the written the official written novels.
Okay.
Because there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, there's a ton. So
what do you think? Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think this is a bad thing?
I think it's a poor idea.
Well, because they can still borrow ideas.
The thing, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think the thing of Chewbacca being dead is not something that a lot of fans are going to like. So, yeah, keep Chewbacca alive. Keep Han alive. You know, get rid of some of the other little frilly characters, like they had like the Star Killer and things like that were part of it, correct?
I'm pretty sure, because I know, if I remember correctly, I've read a few of them. I think Lando's still alive, Han, Leia.
Yeah, I like
right.
And that's another one I noticed wasn't in here is Lando. Lando's not in here in the cast. If you look at it, the guy who played Lando's not there.
Yeah, Billy D. Williams.
He's not in there.
Yeah, he is.
He wasn't in there.
But really,
on one of the version I looked at, he was in
on the cast I just looked at.
But honestly, how important is he to the story?
Especially, you gotta have Billy D.
Well, no. Here's the thing. I don't think you need to have Lando in the first movie, and the reason why is they could introduce him in 8 or 9. I think
I don't see him at all.
Hold a little bit back.
You know what? Billy
on
IMDb, might not
but
be around
it could
till
be
8 or 9.
One of the other ones.
Well, either it's the same thing with the Indiana Jones. There, I mean, he's 80, I think.
Is he?
Who?
Harrison Ford.
Yeah. No, he's in his 70s.
Is he?
He just turned 70. He's not 80.
Yeah, geez, he just looks like it.
That
was according to John.
Hey, that wasn't the
worst.
Harrison, if you have any problems, just write it all to John.
So I was going to say, for anybody, Leia should look him up after saying how heavy she is.
I mean, if you can survive a nuclear blast in a fridge, I'm sure you could beat up John.
Right? Yeah. Wouldn't be that hard. So, but the thing I'm wondering is if they're going to borrow anything from the expanded universe, because there's such great content in there.
I'm sure that J.J. Abrams is definitely aware of a lot of the expanded universe stuff, and it's such a huge sandbox to play around in. And especially if he's just using sort of the movies as canon. I don't think there's any way to piss people off doing that.
I think this is kind of a slippery slope because you're really involving Star Wars. I mean, one of the greatest thing to geek out about was I think there's a fine line. I don't think Disney could screw up, but I think if they screw up, there's going to be geeks marching in the street threatening to kill Mickey Mouse.
This is the same thing we said with Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you screw that up? And then Shyamalali Ding Dong goes ahead and shows you how. So, Disney could do the same thing.
J.J. Abrams?
No, I actually don't.
I really, don't expect that at all.
I think the benefit
No, I don't either. Not from Abrams, but I'm just saying that, there is the possibility that this can get screwed up because there's so much written about it. All you got to do is just take this and say, okay, we'll take this script already written by canon by some nerd, and we're going to transfer this to screenplay. Just like freaking Shyamalali Ding Dong had. He had script right there in front of him that was already put out on by Nickelodeon, and all he had to do is just turn it into screenplay.
Well, I think the benefit though is J.J. Abrams is a fan. He's a fan of
absolutely.
Well, he's a fan of Star Trek and he's a fan of Star Wars. The reason why I say that's a good thing is he loves the material.
We've lost the old guy.
He's a huge fan of the source material, so I really do think if you have a fan of the source material, he's going to realize that if I screw up here, my career is over.
His fear of screwing up, it's not like it's going to stop him from taking a couple artistic licenses.
At this stage in his life, no.
And I actually think fans expect him to do something a little off the mark from Lucas.
Sure, well, and look, I mean, we all know he's not going to do a Jar Jar Binks, so we're pretty much safe.
Yeah, true. And you have to admit, he can't do anything else more to piss people off about Star Wars than what Lucas has done.
But all I really have to say about who's putting this film out is Felicity, Lost, Alias, Mission Impossible 3, The Office, Star Trek, Undercover, Super 8, Star Trek Into Darkness.
He's got some chops.
There's a lot of things that he's done that he could have done very wrong. And I mean, even with the show Felicity, I'm not a fan of it, but a lot of people liked it. Lost, I liked that show. Yeah.
I think what it is people are very protective over Star Wars.
What I like is
they're protective over Star Trek too, and he did fine anyways.
True.
Even though he did have to defend it and say, "I'm doing it differently." Sorry.
True.
Anybody that's on the fence about this or has strong opinions one way or another, I encourage you to go watch the documentary on Netflix called "The People versus George Lucas."
Or that one episode of South Park.
You know what I'm talking about. It talks exactly about this. You know what I mean? Does the artist, you know what I mean, have a
license,
an obligation to the art once it's out in the world, you know what I mean, or does it become the fans? And it gives a pretty two-sided argument to it. So
but I think what my point was, what I was going to bring up is that at least we have a director who is a sci-fi fan.
Yes,
and it's not thrown to somebody who could care less and doesn't know anything about it. And that could have happened too.
Joel Schumacher making a comic book movie,
or the director who shall not be named.
Yeah,
he knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so anyway,
he mentioned his name earlier. Kind of.
But anyway, I think. If you're a sci-fi
there's
fan,
two that you can't name in front of me without me getting pissed. So.
If you're a sci-fi fan, you're a sci-fi fan, and you know what? Sometimes you're willing to forgive some mistakes or some changes.
Yeah.
And I think most of them at this stage are willing to give them a shot at this.
Yeah, I'm willing to give him a shot at this, and basically the point off of it is what I brought up with Star Trek Into Darkness is a lot of people were mad because he wasn't following the universe that why am I drawing a blank on his name?
Roddenberry.
Yeah, Roddenberry put forth, and they were getting all mad at him because he wasn't following it, page by page. And he just basically said, I changed it when I did this. When Spock didn't do the colon.
It was the Spock's
when he
rule.
went back. Yeah, I mean, it was the perfect explanation.
The Colinar, what is that what it was? The Colinar where he purges all his emotions?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Something like that.
All right, nobody really knows. So if you're a fan, I tried. So shut up. So and I don't see him changing the universe that much on Star Trek or Star Wars this time, especially since he's bringing in some of the older cast and saying, I'm picking it up at this point. After Luke took over and started the Jedi Academy.
I do predict, though.
This is a handoff movie.
Yeah.
All right? That's what this is. It's just handing it off to the next group.
I do think, though, and mark my words, I really do think there's going to be people pissed about it, but I generally think most people are going to say, I like his vision. Yeah, because this is being a different director. He can't go so far off the mark because the mouse won't let him. The mouse will hang him up by his feet, Mussolini style. But I think his artistic license is going to be enough that I think some fans are going to be pissed, but I think everybody's going to go, I'm impressed, because it's got to be better than 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, if they follow Walt, they'll actually gas chamber him.
I don't know. We saw what happened with the different Batmans.
Well, you
had a situation there where you couldn't make anybody happy no matter who played the part.
Are you talking about the Ben Affleck, or are you talking about
Ben Affleck?
Oh, okay. Well, we haven't seen it yet. We don't know what he's doing yet. And Ryan, we're not getting into it.
I know.
Okay, all right.
That was me saying I'm not putting the gloves on.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
I'll bare knuckle your ass.
We'll all see. Right?
Matter of fact, I'd pay to see you drive 8.5 hours, do it, and then drive 8.5 hours back.
He can't even move it. Can't put any weight on his foot, so that's not going to happen.
So you're safe,
I can
Ryan.
put pounds behind my fist.
So, ladies and gentlemen, next week's movie's the theater pick, and we have picked Captain America: Winter Soldier. It's been in there for the theaters for a while,
like a month
or more.
I think it's stayed longer than any other movie.
Recently,
So it's still raking in some money.
So make sure you see the movie in the theaters next week, and watch a show on Monday and see what you think. And I gave the movie The Expo Incident a 3 out of 5. James gave it a 3 out of 5. Ryan gave it a 4. Rob gave it a 3. Next week, like I said, is the Captain America: Winter Soldier, and as usual, we'll see you next week.
Meow.